Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, where we chat with industry leaders and get their take on the challenges facing the market. And maybe we'll have a little fun along the way. On this week's episode of the Marketing Stir, Vincent sits down with Chrisinda Mauer, VP of Consumer Marketing at Voya Financial, to discuss Voya's full reset rebrand and her role in closing the context gap in her customers' financial future.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of Stirista's The Marketing Stir. I am your happy host, Vincent Petrofessa, the Vice President of B2B Products and Partnerships here at Stirista. It is so good to be talking to you. There are so many exciting new things that I want to share with you today. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, my co-host, my CEO, Mr. AJ Gupta, he cannot be with us today, but you will see he and I in Dallas, Texas. We will be there for the United States Pacific Asian American Chamber of Commerce Awards. But ladies and gentlemen, before we start, if you don't know who Stirista is, we are a marketing technology company. We have our own business-to-business contact data, our own business-to-consumer contact data. We help companies access that data to get new customers through our email platform, our demand-side platform. Email me at vincent@stirista.com if you would like to learn more. You do email me. You're listening. Is it always for what I intend? No, but it's okay. We have an amazing guest who I might meet in person next week. Who knows? No pressure. But this is great because it's from an awesome company, Voya Financial. I know them personally, the company, and you will get to know them here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the Vice President of Consumer Marketing, Christinda Mauer. What's going on, Chrisinda?
Hi. Hey, Vincent. How are you?
Doing great. It is good to see you. And maybe we can make this happen next week. We'll see. You're busy. You'll be in town, very busy. But Christinda, let's get into it because you and I already chatted, and I'm so glad you're on the podcast. Tell us about your role in the company, right? People may or may not know Voya Financial. They may know it prior as ING, right? So give us a little background on the company and your role, because very specifically consumer marketing right there, right? But it's more than that. So I'd love to learn about it.
Thanks. Well, first, thanks for having me. This is really fun, and doing my research on the podcast that you have, there's so much to learn. So I feel really honored to be here to share my journey, but have enjoyed your podcast immensely already. So yes, I work at Voya Financial, and I am specifically running our consumer marketing program. Voya is a workplace benefits organization. We have retirement benefits, wealth management, and employee benefits that we offer to organizations and directly to consumers. And so my team really is focusing on how people are engaging with their workplace benefits. So call that an employee like yourself. How are you thinking about the benefits that your employer offers you? And how are you really planning for your full financial life and getting ready to retire? So that means we're turning these really complex products, such as financial services products, investing products, into experiences that can feel simple for anyone in America and relevant, and giving next best actions to the end consumer of those products. So it's not just a product push. It really is focused in the marketing that we do, directing to the consumer. It's really about behavior change, behavior influence. We're constantly thinking about those micro moments in your financial life that really matter.
And I want to dig into your experience there because, you've been there a good amount of time and you've seen some changes. But before we go there, take us back to the beginning. How did you get started in marketing? Because you said you listened to the podcast, which we really appreciate. No journey is the same. So we would love to understand your journey.
Yeah. So I do feel like I am a little bit of a unicorn in. I am a marketer through and through, from education into the last 20 years. So I did my undergrad was in business econ with a concentration in marketing, and I went straight to grad school to get an advanced marketing degree. And I started in the agency world. It's such a great place to learn. It's such a great place to experience a lot of different marketing strategies and technologies. I worked on CPG brands, healthcare, automotive brands, hospitality, travel. And so it allowed me to really learn a breadth of things as I was, coming into the workforce and really just getting my feet under me. So So that's been nice. Digital first has really always been also my approach. And this was when digital first was like a really popular thing. This was when we were in the digital marketing age, scrapping for dollars from those big TV ads that were on TV all the time, right? And so that was a lot of fun as well, because I learned a lot about influence and about how to market not only the organization and the company, but market myself and the skill set. So I feel really lucky to have started in that. Anytime I have a chance to talk to somebody who's interested in marketing and wants to start in marketing straight out of college or as a young career, I always kind of encourage them to find an organization, an agency that has many different types of clients where they can really get their feet wet. So that's kind of where I started, and then moved into ING at the time, about 15 years ago. And at the time, I was in the brand organization. In my first 5 years, we IPO'd and rebranded into Voya Financial. And that was a really cool and unique way to not only come into the financial services universe, but it also was a really cool point in my career.
Yeah, and Chrisinda, you're right. That is unique, because we rarely have people on the podcast where it's like, studied marketing and here I am now. So we love that story. And I want to talk about, I remember ING. Of course I know Voya, but I remember ING. It was like the orange savings account, right? That used to be, I had one of those. And what was that like? The brand changed from ING to Voya.
I mean, it was a full reset and kind of a marketer's dream to be able to think about what a new brand could look and feel like as we were heading into IPO. So we knew we were headed into an IPO from ING to Voya. And we were, a small but mighty team responsible for thinking about what that brand could be, not only the look and feel, but the values, the voice, defining our purpose as an organization. And that was pretty cool.
So I want to talk about your role marketing to the end consumer. And what channels are you using? Again, without giving the secret sauce away, we tell a lot of our marketers out there.
Yeah, it's a great question. And truthfully, a lot of the work that we do not only goes directly to that consumer, but goes through our intermediaries, our advisors, our employers. And so we rely very heavily on a B2B to C model in a lot of cases to reach those employees that have the benefits. And so channels are extremely important here, because we really need to have a lot of levers that we can pull, to not use too much of a term, but we're channel agnostic in a lot of ways. And depending on the strategy, depending on our access to the employee or how we are marketing to the end consumer, we're going to pull all the different levers available to us. So, we use email for sure, and journey specific emails we know are much more effective, multi-touch, increasing the frequency. But we are also using text. We are on social. We're really trying to take advantage of all of the places where people are and finding them where they are. So I would even call a channel the employer. And they might be sending something out about the benefit, because a lot of times the employees really take notice when they see something coming from them. So like I said, channel agnostic, but what I found is frequency matters. And I find that multi-channel definitely increases the conversions. So you're going to get some people to take action if you can reach them in multiple places. It just sticks a little bit better.
Yeah, preaching to the choir. We talk about that all the time at Stirista. So Chrisinda, talk to us about, because what's unique about Voya is for everyone. It's kind of regardless of income level. Some of those are like, we only talk to them, but they make $1 million and above. Well, how do you balance creating that messaging, making it accessible to someone with a lower income to higher earners?
So this is one of the reasons I've been at Voya for 15 years. If you were to call 25-year-old Chrisinda and say you're going to be a financial services marketer and you're going to be in this organization for this amount of time, I probably would not have believed you. It wouldn't have been the thing that I would have thought that I would have chosen. But man, Voya made it really easy for me, because the purpose that we live every day is together we fight for everyone's opportunity for a secure financial future. And those words, the words fight, the word everyone, were chosen very specifically by our most senior executive leaders. And we live that every day. So we don't start with income, we start with confidence. We really need to speak to everyone about financial uncertainty, and that cuts across every salary band, that cuts across every level of understanding. And so, we keep things simple. We talk about plain language, real speak. We want to be your savviest best friend as it relates to your full financial life. And we really can go deep as well when people need it. And so we're allowing for really all of America to select how far they go. We can stay accessible without oversimplifying, without speaking down to somebody. And that's just very important. We also are testing our messages all over the place. We have a behavioral finance institute where we're testing our messages and our experiences and our look and feel of how we're doing things. We're doing research and insights on the upfront to understand the consumer's point of view, their perspective. And then we're measuring and testing consistently as we're executing what's resonating and how can we further segment to make sure it's right for the audience.
And Chrisinda, I want to say on that because, you and I've talked before about some of the challenges of some people just even knowing what a 401k is. And that can be hard. What are other most common financial literacy gaps you see? And how do you kind of design messaging around that? How do you continue to educate people about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest gap isn't really intelligence, it's context. It's understanding the full picture. So understanding a savings account, understanding a bank account, understanding a 401k, understanding your cost of healthcare individually are things that people can really grasp onto. How do those things interconnect together to make your full financial picture? That gets confusing, and people don't really always understand how those things connect. Benefit choices are usually the second most expensive line item in a person's budget. And so helping them understand how to choose and use their benefits and how that connects to their financial future, their ability to save, their ability to pay if an unexpected emergency comes up. That's really where we strive to be. So it is that full picture view that's more important than only educating on one small portion of the full financial life. And that's where we think that we're a little bit different.
And before I get into some of your experiences at Voya, let's go back a little bit more, right? Because you have not only brand experience, right, in the financial space, but you also have agency experience. What are some of the tools? What are some of the lessons that you learned in the agency world for those people listening that you brought over? What are some things you had to unlearn?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll start with the learning and the very secret sauce, I think, to being successful in just about any marketing job is being so customer obsessed. And in an agency world, you are serving in service of your clients to make sure that you are understanding their issues, the problem they're trying to solve, the nuances in their organization, and bringing solutions to them. That's how you make your money. Financial services is no different. I have a breadth of clients that we are in service of to make sure we're bringing the right financial products and benefits to their end employees. And so having that customer first mindset, I think, is something that is extremely invaluable, again, to anyone starting out. Differences here is that when you're inside the organization, the context is a bit broader. You understand a bit more about how that organization works. There's a lot of influence that's needed to get big projects off the ground. There's a lot of connectedness across teams other than just a marketing organization that you need to have to influence product, to influence technology, to influence the data sets. And so really using the skill set to get into that and to understand what it takes to get things working and moving definitely is something you have to learn, and not unique in any organization, but always works a bit differently depending on the organization you're working for. So that's a little bit of a difference that I see from an agency world.
Yeah, no, very good insight, and it makes total sense. Christinda, talk to us about what surprised you most about moving into those leadership aspects, right? What are some skills that you had to learn? What surprised you the most also?
Not unlike life, I think being in a career, if you're not always learning and improving, then what are you doing? Regardless of if you're an individual contributor or a people leader. And so this answer changes throughout the years as you learn more, as you get more experience. But, teams are going to be constantly evolving. They need to evolve the way they do work in the industry that we're in, but then also just in the state of the world that we are in, and encouraging your team to be curious and helping kind of coach and help people advance their careers is something I adore. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. It's a lot of fun to understand how people tick and what makes them work, and what they want to get to next, and help them to do that. But also being able to be a good listener and curious. I learn a lot from my team, and I have really, really best-in-class marketers that are working on my team. And so asking questions, learning from them, and really having a team that complements each other in their skill sets, in their approaches, in what they know how to do and the way that they get work done is also a lot of fun too. So it really is top down, but there's a lot of bottom up influence that I think if your team feels empowered to do that, they can really hum and work at a much higher level of pace if everybody has ownership in the organization and the team that you're working on. And so trying to instill that in the team is something that I'm definitely focused in on right now in my leadership journey.
I love that. I love that insight into leadership. Talk to us about, if you're marketing to a lot of people, sometimes it's like, okay, how do you break down different groups? Generations are one of those. We talk about that a lot here at Stirista. Different generations are different, especially in the way they look at financial services. So what are some other kind of maybe non-obvious methods that you're using?
Yeah, and it's interesting. We talk about this a lot, and I don't know that I've heard others say it, but we are now sitting in a place where we are in a 5-generation workforce. So there are 5 generations in the workforce today, and that's more than there ever has been. And so context, you're right, is so important, because how do you speak to all of those generations with relevancy is something we're thinking about day in and day out, truthfully. And the way that we are thinking about that, because everybody doesn't operate on the same timeline. Age isn't the only predictor of life choice. So we're thinking about life moments, financial stress, health issues, job changes, marriages, divorces, kids going to college, parents moving in. There's so much more of those signals that can be far more predictive in the type of message that somebody wants than just age or just their perspective because of because of where they're coming from a generational perspective. So when you design around what someone is dealing with right now, your marketing really feels more helpful, not as promotional, right? Because it has that context in it. Now, it's not easy to get access to all of that information, and for it to be accurate and for it to be, always relevant and timely. And so we're always working to improve upon that, all while thinking about the security of the person and the person's data being really safe in our hands as well. So it's definitely a challenge, and it's going to continue to get more complex.
And I want to talk again about that communications with people, because you oversee workplace communications with really 2 distinct functions: total benefit, financial view, and sort of a holistic financial guidance. How do you prevent these from competing with each other in your messaging?
It's interesting, the frame of reference for the employee and the person you're speaking to and what information they need at that time is one way to keep it simple and make sure you're communicating that information. And as I mentioned earlier, your full financial life is connected to all 3 of those experiences, to your benefit choices, to how you're saving for your retirement and planning for your retirement, and what you're doing with your full financial wealth and plans for that as well. So showing those integration points is really important, and just showing up where when that person's ready for that. So helping them make those easy decisions quickly so that they can start saving, get in the plan. They can make sure that they have the right choices for their benefits, and then connecting them throughout the year on how they can use them in the best way is really how we've prioritized.
I love it. And I know I was just throwing targeted questions at you. I love it. It's great. So also, where do you see the financial services industry changing in the next year? So many of those industries historically, like healthcare, financial, a lot of people are just like, just ho-hum. But, it's changing and it's exciting. Where do you kind of see it?
Yeah. I feel like there's 2 ways, and you said one of them, but it is expectation of the end consumer. The expectation of the end consumer is not you're going to act like a bank or you're going to act like a financial institution. Their expectation is you're going to act like the best-in-class brands that I engage with every day, and your experience, that's the bar. And so making sure that we are meeting that bar with clarity, speed, personalization, transparency, all of those are key tenets in the way that financial services is going to continue to evolve. And the people who are going to be really good at it are going to be the ones that can evolve their experiences in a way that resonate to the end consumer. And then the second thing that's not as much a change, but is as important as it ever has been, is trust. We know that people can sometimes come to a financial services organization feeling weary about fees or lacking trust. And we really are focused in on shifting from a product first thinking to experience first thinking and being focused on building that trust, one exceptional experience at a time, so that end consumer knows that we also have their best interest at heart. And so I think those are the two ways that we see financial services evolving, is really meeting the expectations of the end consumer where they are in a way that we haven't done in the past.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of goes hand in hand with another question I have is how people are in general understanding finance, right? In this day and age, right? And I think you said it before, because a lot of things, it's based on the individual. My financial concerns have changed over just being concerned about myself and then my wife and then now children. It's like this college savings plan. And I'm like, oh, this is enough money to save. And I'm like, no, that's not enough. You know how much colleges are? But I guess my point being is, my understanding of finances have changed over the last 8 years, now 9 years. But, how are people just in general, you think, thinking about finance? I mean, it's different, but what do you see?
I mean, it's really interesting. There's been a lot of volatility over the last 25 years in finances holistically. But really what we're seeing, and you just gave such great examples of thinking about your kids and thinking about their future and thinking about others than yourself. Self-care actually over the last 10 years has, from a Google search perspective, eBree tells us this, has grown exponentially. And self-care isn't about selfish or self-word like that, but Vincent, it's about self-care of your whole self as it relates to your family, as it relates to your responsibilities. It's about reducing stress, but focusing not only on financial well-being and keeping that in a box that sits over here separate from everything else. It's focusing on physical, emotional, social, and financial well-being. And so employers really increasingly have permission to play here. It's not always a person going directly to an advisor. Sometimes it is. But we know that there is a lot of onus on the employer for their employees' physical, emotional, and financial well-being. So it's not just spreadsheets. It's not just bottom lines and green and red outcomes. It really is emotional. And, marketing has to meet that shift. So less bravado, less we have to convert, more guidance, more understanding. That's really what we're focused in finance. The finance part is important and what you do is important, but you have to have that connection to the person.
Love it. Let's get into the personal side of things. Now we get to know you personally. One is our LinkedIn question. So it's still on the work side, of course, but your company, your title, Chrisinda, you're probably getting solicited all the time on LinkedIn. What is a message that resonates with you that you will respond to? What are some that you just hate, you don't like, and you never respond to?
I was thinking about this and listening to your other podcasts and trying to think of, do I have a unique perspective or answer? I mean, the ones that I don't respond to, not as a unique answer, is just the ones that are trying to be personal, but are still pretty darn generic. Hey, I see you went to FSU for grad school. Go Knowles. I'm not super interested in kind of kicking off with that. And one I had recently, though, that I was out of town and unable to attend, but it caught my eye. And if I get another one, I'm going to say yes, is I was invited to a small dinner in Atlanta at a great restaurant with some people I'm interested in speaking to and a topic I'm interested in speaking about. Now, it's being hosted by an organization that wants our business, right? But it was a very personal and in-person offer, not just something about let's have a phone call, let's text or whatever that is. So I was pretty interested in that. The restaurant looked really good. The people seemed very interesting. And I know that wasn't by accident, that there was a lot of thought that was put into who should we curate together to try and get to have a conversation. So that was a unique one that I hadn't seen before that I really liked.
That is, I like that. And yeah, it's funny because some of them feel personal, right? Where you're like, yeah, you went to, go Knowles. Well, if you're like, well, maybe if you said, hey, I also went there and I studied like that you could make it more personal. You're just kind of just finding something from a person's LinkedIn. But, I like that. I like the curated, it's got to be worth your time too, right? Yeah, sure. Maybe they're trying to, that's, sales are real, right? Sales happen and it's great. Organizations come together, but if there's like-minded people and it's a nice restaurant, it's good company. Yes, I like that. That is a unique answer. So tell us about, now you're in the Atlanta area. Were you always from that area? What do you like about it? What do you do on the weekends? I know you have, you and I both have children. So we were talking about that and what our weekends are like nowadays. Talk to us about what your hobbies are. What are you interested in?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Tennessee, in Northeast Tennessee, but have made my way through to Atlanta, over 20 years ago. So Atlanta's home. I do have a rising middle schooler and rising high schooler. And so I'm chasing them around on the weekends with baseball and tennis and volleyball. So a busy life, but a lot of fun. I have just recently embraced a new grandma hobby, as they're calling them these days, which I'm doing embroidery. And my grandmother actually taught me how and has given me some of her old embroidery patterns that she hasn't used before. And so that's a lot of fun. Not a lot of downtime in my world with work and with kids, but if I do, I try to do something with my hands. So I really enjoy cooking, and that embroidery has been a lot of fun. So it's a busy life in Atlanta, but I enjoy the South. I enjoy the weather down here, and it's a pretty cool city. So hopefully you'll get down here soon too, Vincent, and you can return the favor and we can have a coffee together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I was in is Alpharetta. Yeah, and I was like, look at this adorable little downtown. I feel like I'm in the set of Gilmore Girls. It was such a nice little area. But yeah, I love Atlanta. I was there. I went to go see the Giants play the Falcons, and I'll definitely make it down there again. But Christinda, a final thought. Anything you want about life, about the financial industry, books you read, anything you want. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me and for your questions and for being curious. And so I just appreciate that. And this has been a lot of fun. I think it goes back to what I'm leaning into every day as it relates to my work goes back to that purpose, the Voya Financial purpose, and fighting for everyone's right for a secure financial future. And then one other thing that I didn't mention, Voya actually gives every employee 40 hours a year of volunteer time off. And we're getting ready to head into, in May, our National Week of Service, where we are all, as an organization, volunteering across the United States. In our communities and in the places that we're passionate about, to really give back and to continue to try and bring that full financial picture into the community. And so some of the volunteer events are centered around financial awareness and education. Some are just going to, a soup kitchen and serving. And I think that's something worth being really proud of as an organization. And hopefully others can be encouraged and influenced and inspired to maybe introduce something like that to their organization. So I think that's what I'll leave you with.
I love it. It's a great thought. It's a great cause. I love what you're doing there. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Vice President of Consumer Marketing, Chrisinda Mauer, my new pal. Check out Voya Financial. This has been another episode of The Marketing Stir. I'm Vincent. AJ's somewhere. He'll come back. We know it. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email us at themarketingstir@stirista.com.